So we're here, as I had mentioned a number of times, especially in light of the horrific homicides that we saw on this block. That I lived on this block as a child growing up, and this is where I lived. My mom, my siblings, and I, we lived downstairs, and my grandmother lived upstairs. It's actually the home where my grandmother died. And I said before that it was on this block that I saw some of the most horrific acts of violence that I've seen in my life, that no young person, no young child should ever experience. It was on this block where my older brother, after going to the corner store one night, was jumped and savagely beaten just on that corner. It was a block where I saw domestic violence, even in my own family. It's a home where, because we had housing insecurity, not a lot of resources ourselves, we had some internal problems where plumbing wasn't right. Before my grandmother moved in, there was toilet water leaking from the bathroom upstairs into the kitchen downstairs, where in a house with 5 kids and a couple of adults, we didn't even have working plumbing for some time. So there certainly have been challenges here, but there are also bright spots. You look across the street, you see that there have been investments, there's home ownership growing. So even in a place where there have been challenges like we've seen here, there still are some bright spots, including the work that the Office of Violence Prevention has been providing in this neighborhood. I was just made aware that we're here today after that horrific incident, but this is not the first time that the Office of Violence Prevention has been on the ground here. They've been out here in this area more than 50 times. And as I said in the State of the City address, it's going to take that. It's going to take partnerships. It's going to take working together. And public safety is not going to be just a silver bullet approach. It needs to be multi-pronged. Police are certainly a part of that, yes, but early interventions are also a part of that. That's why some of these members of 4-1 for Life, before joining us here today, were at Bradley Tech High School on the south side, providing interventions. Also, home ownership is another intervention, actual home ownership in our neighborhoods, and providing an economic foundation on which to build a strong community off of. Another part of the partnerships that we need is partnership with the state. I've said constantly that it's going to be, a critical component of my administration to work collaboratively with Madison in order to get the resources that we need in order to make investments and move things forward in Milwaukee. That's including on violence prevention. So I'm eternally grateful for the governor of the state of Wisconsin, Tony Evers, for allocating dollars to us so that we can address issues around violence prevention. And the governor has allocated $8 million in the state's allotment of American Rescue Plan Act funds. The city has allocated $3 million. It's my desire to allocate even more. And so I have the file that will allow the city to move forward with accepting the state's allocation of $8 million into our efforts around violence prevention, and I'll sign that now. Okay. Arnita, if you wouldn't mind, could you hold this one? Sure. I have a pen, Jeff. All right, I'm sorry.
Mayor, what does this do?
So this will put in motion the city's ability to now formally accept the grant monies from the state of Wisconsin, $8 million from the state's allotment of American Rescue Plan Act funds, ARPA funds, so that we can make further investments into violence prevention here in the city of Milwaukee.
How will those funds be earmarked for different aspects of those efforts?
I'm fortunate enough to have again the director of the Office of Violence Prevention, Rita Holman, here, who can probably address some of those questions. So I'll ask Arnita to do that.
So the $8.4 million from the state of Wisconsin, along with the $3 million that was allocated from the city of Milwaukee thus far, will help to expand the outreach, the team, the 414 Life team. So some of the team members are here, and like the mayor said, they've been in the area over 50 times. So this isn't just a first touch, but it enables us to be able to expand both the 414 Life team, also expand the OVP team and increase capacity there. There'll be some crisis response healing work that will be done. We'll be issuing RFPs that will focus on a number of content areas, including domestic violence, sexual assault, youth engagement, reckless driving, and a number of other initiatives. It also gives us an opportunity to increase our footprint in terms of implementation of the Blueprint for Peace and working with neighborhood groups and organizations to do that work, among a number of other things, including increasing or expanding our work in suicide prevention. And we understand that the majority of suicides are a result, or the use, firearms are used in many suicides. And so we are able to kind of increase our overall capacity, expand 414 Life, and get funds to community organizations that are doing the direct service work every day.
What's the time frame for those 50 visits?
That is a question that Steve from 414 Life would be able to answer, but it's not, it didn't happen like within a week or two, obviously. This is a part of their target area or target neighborhood, so they have been consistently in this area doing the work of outreach, canvassing, making touch points with community members and neighbors in the area.
Before the 6 dead were found in the house?
Correct. They've also done outreach in this area since that happened. So this isn't the first time being back in the area. So I think that's important to understand, because I know sometimes people will wonder why now. But there has been consistent outreach in this area through the 414 Life program.
Was there any sense that something really bad was going to happen from the initial visits?
I don't know. I can't, answer that question. I think what is important to know is that we want the community and neighbors in this area to know that we care, and that people shouldn't have to be shot, or a mass shooting shouldn't have to happen at a place of worship or at a school or at run down at a parade for the larger community to put the kind of resources and support into the neighborhoods, into the families and survivors that are still grappling with such a tragic loss. And so the 414 Life team has been here on the ground, made touch points with family members, survivors. Our office has connected some survivor family members to support, but we want to make sure that people know that we haven't forgot about them, and that they care, and that their needs and their well-being and their safety is central to our work.
Mayor, violence prevention has been talked about by Milwaukee leaders for many, many years, and we're already way above last year's homicide total, barely into the second month of the year. How do you respond to that? I mean, the talking hasn't led to violence prevention.
Well, these are efforts that we'll have to engage in for some time, right? I mean, just look at this neighborhood, right? Certainly there were problems when I was a kid. Those problems continue to fester. I haven't been at this house since I was in 4th grade. I'm a 35-year-old man now, and still there are problems here. So these things didn't happen overnight. They're not going to be solved overnight. But I think it's important, again, that we recognize that it's not going to be a silver bullet approach. I know there are calls from some folks to just take every single dollar that we have and invest it into police in order to solve these things, but the police will be the first ones to tell you that they can't do it alone. They'll be the first ones to do that. And so we have to have a multi-pronged approach in order to address issues around public safety, including violence prevention.
How do you ensure that many of the positive things that are going on in Milwaukee are not overshadowed by all of the violence?
Well, part of that is that we need you. We need you guys to tell those stories. There are so many positive things happening in our city every single day. There's so many positive stories every single day, from the north side of the city all the way to the south side of the city. I even highlighted some of those things in the State of the City address that I just delivered earlier this week. We need more of those stories to get out there so people have a sense of hope, that it's not just crime, death, and destruction happening in their neighborhoods. It's not. There's so many great things that are happening too. I mean, just think about some of the people that we just engaged with 414 Life as we were walking up and down the street. One of the ladies that I spoke with said that she has lived in this neighborhood for 34 years. That's practically my entire life, and she hasn't left because she sees the positive. And now, you know, there are things happening in her neighborhood. There's home ownership that's growing. There's investments at the former Phyllis Wheatley Elementary School. Like, there are positive things happening in Milwaukee, and as much as we need, you know, folks in our neighborhoods to step up when they see something going wrong. If somebody shoots somebody or hurts somebody, they can't be allowed to just go sit on somebody's couch. They should be held accountable, and we need people to step up and to say that and to do that. But we also need, you know, you guys to help tell those positive stories as well. So that's my challenge to people in this community. If you see something going on wrong in your neighborhoods, if you want true public safety, then you need to step up and say something. And to the media as well, use your platforms to help spread the story about the positive things that are happening in this city as well.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all.